the only remaining question is, well, how long do you actually need to tell a B-plot well, a self-contained subplot? What are other examples of this from, like, early Game of Thrones, where they had a reasonably well-contained thing? I looked this up. There's people who have actually ranked characters by how much screen time they had on Game of Thrones, so I just had to Google this. Of, how much did people appear on screen? Because, 5 minutes is actually a really long scene when you're watching it live. Like, a hefty scene can be 5 minutes, and things we think of as iconic Ned and Robert scenes from season 1 are like 2 minutes long. That's just the nature of television. Well, just breezing through this list, I don't want to bore you with too many statistics. Season 1, the character with the most screen time was Ned Stark, with 94 minutes, 30 seconds. Then, and just reading down the list, then came Jon Snow with almost 60 minutes, Daenerys Targaryen with 57 minutes, Tyrion with 53, Catelyn with 48, and some of these overlap, obviously. There's scenes with both Ned Stark and Jon Snow in it. Tyrion has scenes where he's speaking to Jon Snow. Robert Baratheon has almost 30 minutes of footage, most of which is with Ned Stark. Cersei Lannister also 28 minutes. But this gives you a sense of how much does an A-plot character, the A-plot of an episode, appear. We're talking 30 minutes to an hour across 10 episodes in terms of screen time. In terms of subplots, like what would you consider a reasonably self-contained subplot, short but a story, on the scale of Cregan seizing back control from his uncle who usurped him? Well, Lord Commander of the Night's Watch Jorah Mormont appears on screen for about 11 minutes. Bronn is on screen for 16 minutes, though most of that is just hanging around with Tyrion, but it's a story. Particularly, I'm thinking of Bronn in terms of the Vale storyline, and Lysa Arryn in terms of the subplot where they go to the Vale, they introduce the Vale as a location, a different culture. Imagine Season 1 of House of the Dragon showing Winterfell about as much as we saw the Vale in Game of Thrones Season 1. Lysa Arryn was on screen for 7 minutes. And I'm not going to go through every season, just Season 2, by comparison, the character with the most screen time once Ned Stark was dead was Tyrion Lannister with 64 minutes. This was also a big Theon Greyjoy season with 42 minutes, though a lot of that was at Winterfell, not with, like, his sister and his father in the Iron Islands. Obviously, that was shorter. Robb Stark, who had a big season, 30 minutes. The Baratheon storyline, which I wouldn't even call a B-plot, it was the A-plot of the episode it was in. Stannis had 20 minutes of screen time, and Renly had 14 minutes, so of course these overlap. Getting back to what's really a B-plot, though, Jorah Mormont with the Night's Watch, almost 8 minutes. Samwell Tarly, 12 minutes, and Ygritte, the whole Ygritte subplot meeting Jon Snow was 16 minutes. And briefly, Season 3 with the Tullys, and this overlaps because they're in a lot of scenes together. Brynden Tully had a grand total of 12 minutes of screen time across 10 episodes. Edmure Tully, his nephew, had 13 minutes of screen time across 10 episodes. So, let's say that a substantial B-plot is about 10 to 15 minutes worth of screen time spread out across multiple episodes. That you could tell the story of Cregan and his uncles in, 3 scenes, 5 minutes each, spread across 3 episodes. They're like 5 minutes in episode 2, 5 in episode 3, and 5 in episode 4. I think there's enough time to do that. Maybe. Not as the main plot. The main plot is the Targaryens. The main plot is what is Daemon doing fighting in the Stepstones, and then all the suitors for Rhaenyra and setting up, we need to force her into a political marriage, and the fallout from that. But if they're going to put the Starks in, they wouldn't put them in episode 8. People would stop watching by then. They'd shift it earlier to like episodes 2 through 4. And episodes 2 through 4 are the ones that we have the least knowledge of. I mean, on paper, it's just, there's a big battle in the Stepstones. That's not a lot to go on, versus we have a very detailed description of the first episode, or the 7th episode, or particularly episodes 9 and 10, that we don't know as much about the breakdown of episodes 2, 3, and 4, and I think, given the importance of the Starks and how much everyone wants to see them, they could, or at least should, I'm saying they should, if I was in charge, I would give 5 minutes each in episodes 2, 3, and 4 to tell a self-contained story about the rise of Cregan Stark in the North. It would keep the casual viewers happy. It's from the books, it's not invented. I think they could squeeze that in, but they're definitely, I really would be surprised if they cast adult Cregan or adult Jane Eyre for the second half of season 1. They may have cast young Cregan or young Jane Eyre, she also has her own succession problems in the Vale. Or they might mention that in dialogue, like at a small council scene, but not actually show it. That's a quick way of explaining Jane Eyre is fighting off a rebellion by her younger cousin who says she's a woman she can't rule. And Jane Eyre is connected to all this. She's Rhaenyra's maternal cousin, because Rhaenyra's mother is an Arryn. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, so don't walk into this, if you're a new viewer, thinking there's going to be a lot of Stark material. I'm thinking, like, as much screen time as Lysa Arryn had, as big as the Vale storyline in season 1, might be devoted to the Starks. It's the smart move. It's what they should do for all the casual viewers. And for me as a book fan, I would want them to show this. I mean, if nothing else, they're going to show it as like an extended flashback in the season 2 premiere, or at least I hope they do. I'm not really sure how the breakdown of season 2 is a whole other thing, because then they'd have to spend time introducing the Reach subplot with Daeron fighting the Tarleys and the Rowans, who we know are in it. They'd have to introduce the adult Cregan and Jane Eyre and various lords in the Riverlands. There's a lot of other subplot, but that's far and away, and we'll have to see what they set up in season 1 anyway. Tying into the question of, well, how many seasons is this show going to run? I would say at least 5, possibly up to 7. Because other prequels, like the Valyria prequel they put out, the official description was, in the leak, at least 5, but preferably 7. Because the big issue is, they don't know if this show will be a hit, and like with Game of Thrones, where if the first 2 seasons, they renewed it one season to the next to see how it was doing, and the network wants more seasons, not fewer. They want as much content as possible. I think that if season 1 is a hit, they will slow down the rate at which they're adapting the source material from Fire and Blood. They'll expand some of it, which is what I want them to do. That they won't race through the war in the Riverlands, that we might not get the battle by the Lakeshore, which is the biggest land battle of the war between the Stark army and the Lannister army in the Riverlands. I don't want to rush to get to that by season 2. I think season 2, if I was doing it, I would end with the big dragon battle at the Battle of Rook's Rest. And Lakeshore and the Dragon Seeds wouldn't even happen until season 3, because I don't want them to rush through it like Game of Thrones, rush through everything in the later seasons because they wanted to leave. They wanted to run off to make Star Wars things. No, we don't want to rush through this to see it end. We want them to expand it out, because it's not like... Well, also because it's not the promise of, hey, when are the White Walkers coming? When is Daenerys coming back? Like, you start with a finite number of 20 dragons. And you will lose dragons as the seasons progress due to attrition from losses taken in the war. So the structure is different. It's not, when are the dragons coming? Let's rush through this. But I don't want to kill off all these cool dragons right away. I don't want to rush it in only 5 seasons. I want it to run 7. Even then, like, due to the way the source material is structured again, the Dance of the Dragons is immediately followed by a new prequel era called the Regency era. The people who are children in the dance, like Rhaenyra's sons, become characters, they're older characters in the Regency, which is getting on nearly 10 years later. You could make a Regency show. So unlike Game of Thrones, you're going, well, it's over. Can we have a sequel? No. This ends. Yeah, you can have sequels. Cregan Stark, minor spoilers, I already said, Cregan lives to be an old man. And he has a lot of other adventures, also in the Regency era. There's plagues, there's rebellions, there's wildling invasions that he has to deal with. So we could be following Cregan directly into a Regency spinoff. How long could a Regency show run? I don't know. So it's a question of, well, is this show including the Regency? This is one of the things I'd ask the writers. Will this include the Regency, or are you going to save that for like a direct spinoff? What would their combined runtime be? I don't know. But the way they say, 5 to 7 for one of the other ones, if season 1 is a hit, I don't think they're going to try to burn through this in only 5 seasons. I think they'll want to expand it. That's a question for another day, though. Question is, how much are the Starks in season 1? We know Cregan's father will make a cameo in the first episode. Another thing they could do is emphasize, I don't think they do this in the first episode, there isn't enough time, that politically, why did the Starks side with Rhaenyra and the Velaryons? That when they had this council to vote between who should be the heir, Rhaenyra's father Viserys or Rhaenys' son Laenor, the Starks are one of the only great houses that voted for Laenor, and well, why did they want him to be king? And it's this whole political thing, which would work the Starks in, of they were angry at the old king Jaehaerys, Viserys' grandfather. They were angry that he had used eminent domain to acquire some lands from the north to donate directly to the Night's Watch, that he had carved out the new gift. And the Starks are saying, we already support them from those lands, and we're better at administering them. The Night's Watch will always look north of the wall, never south, and the lands will fall into disuse, and that's actually what happened. So they had this dispute with the Targaryen king over a land donation, a forced land donation, where they're saying, we could administer it better, don't do this. And the Starks were never political. This is the first time they got involved in affairs at royal court. They got dragged in and said to Jaehaerys, yeah, you want Viserys to be king, and we're kind of bitter about the whole land donation thing, so we're going to vote for his rival Laenor. And why the Starks ally with Rhaenyra? So, again, if I were in charge, I would have a running subplot in episodes 2 through 4, where, like, you see Cregan chafing under his uncle, and then back at, like, a small council meeting, have Otto Hightower or one of the Strongs, or Lionel Strong, going to Viserys, as you know, the Starks are annoyed at us because that forced land donation to the Night's Watch, and because they think they can run it better. And just to give context, politics. Remember when we had politics in this show, in this franchise? To set up, these are plot things that the Starks were doing in the books. You don't need to invent poorly written storylines for them. Just show what actually happened. Will they... So, questions for the comments, as I'm outro to this video. Given what we know of the Season 1 outline, do you think they could fit in a Cregan Stark subplot around episodes 2 through 4, with like 2 to 5 minutes per episode, just as a subplot, a B-plot, setting him up for later seasons? I think they should. I don't think anyone would dispute that, particularly but step back and realize we know the source material very well. Question I want you to address in the comments is, the casual viewers who don't know anything about this will be asking about the Starks. Another thing is, if they do show young Cregan, should they set up his bastard half-sister Sarah Snow? Again, I would, just as a... And over there, that 5-year-old girl who you'll never see again because she'll be recast. Oh yeah, and that's my bastard half-sister over there. Just to set her up for a later episode, later season. That, there's these rumors that Rhaenyra's son Jake, when he went to Winterfell, fell in love with Sarah Snow and married her, and other people said she never existed, and that's a whole separate debate. Should they have Cregan in there? Don't want to confuse the audience with too many names, but I think they should work in Sarah Snow. And related question, should they work in, well, the Starks are angry at us because of the new gift land donation, so this is why they're politically siding with Rhaenyra. Do you think that's a good thing to put in? Because it's not an action scene. It's, here we are in the Galactic Senate discussing trade disputes. Well, yeah, that's the type of thing that leads to wars. That you should have them discussing. I don't think that would be a boring scene, like in the small council, going, and here we are angry about that land grant again. They're filing a complaint again that they want it back. We already gave it to the Night's Watch. Why are they complaining? Well, they think they can run it better. it's setting up why they side with Rhaenyra and the Velaryons the way they did. So, address all this in the comment section. I'm really looking forward to it. Can they squeeze in Cregan? Should they? I think they should. Could they? Will they? These are the questions we're faced with. But we're not seeing adult Cregan. I hope we see young Cregan. So, like and subscribe, and please look forward to all your comments. I hope this generates a lot of discussion, because, it's the Starks.